we are so fortunate and so happy to have two very special guests with us tonight. Right now, there's a lot of celebration on Rocky Top with the hire of Josh Elander, and we actually have current Vol baseball player Hunter High. His parents are with us tonight. Brent and Emily, welcome. We are so glad you're with us.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thanks for having us, guys. Congrats on 3 years coming up with the podcast.
I appreciate that very much. It's really cool. Like I said, Nick, we were just talking about it before we started. Next week will be 3 years of the Vol Bros, so very exciting. Well, obviously, everybody has now seen the reveal, the coach reveal video. That was really cool that they did that. Obviously, the thing that caught everybody's attention was the reaction of the team when Josh came walking in that room. They just exploded. They love him. And so, as you know, Brent, we saw your reaction on X, very celebratory as well. And so, our question to you all is, first of all, why did the team react that way? What do you all know that we don't know? And what do you all know about Josh Elander as a coach that you think will make him successful where, arguably the top program in the country right now, the most funded program in the country. What do you feel like is going to make him successful there? What do you know about him that the average Tennessee fan like me and doesn't know?
Well, the real reason I think is these, and he said it in his statement to the team. He's known these guys since they were babies. I mean, he first laid eyes on Hunter in the summer of 21 when he just finished his sophomore year.
Wow.
And you think about all the hours and all the reps and the practices and the engagements and just the personal interactions. He's family. And when you have a chance to continue with family as opposed to a complete unknown, you choose family every time.
Yeah, there was never, when the news dropped of the possibility of me leaving, there was never a doubt or a waver with Hunter. It was Elander all the way, the entire team. It's Elander. If V leaves, it's Elander.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, I give Tony a ton of credit. Coach Don Meyer is one of my big mentors at Lipscomb coming up, and he would always emphasize to us as we were going off into business, always train your replacement. And it was for two reasons. One is for the Mack truck moment, right? Which God forbid. But the other one was if you ever decide to do something else or you decide to leave, the work continues. The ground that you've tilled, the kingdom you've built doesn't collapse. There's somebody there to continue it. And this is just spot on the way he elevated him 3 years ago to associate head coach, gave him more responsibilities. He was perfectly positioned to be the guy.
I'm curious from a parent perspective. Emily, you just mentioned that it kind of leaked out that Tony was considering this. What was the communication like with the players through the process, and how much communication did parents get as well?
On Saturday morning when it leaked, Tony met with the team in right field and told them they had no idea. From my understanding, the assistants had no idea, and he was very upset that it had gotten leaked because he's very protective of those guys and wanted to be the one that controlled the narrative, and was very, very upset and very sad because he had not controlled it, which made it hard.
Well, it also came out right before a certain football game. That didn't help Vol Nation at all.
Yeah.
Well, as you all know, Vol Nation is very rational and very, very calm.
Not emotional at all.
Yeah. So, it's not like it was a big game or anything that the third Saturday in October or anything. It was definitely not maybe the best timing in the world.
Well, as
So-
much as Tony loves all the sports and is a huge supporter of all the
Right.
sports, I mean, we've seen him be on the baseball field and get in a car and drive to Lexington to be behind the bench at the basketball game during, preseason. So he would never have wanted that to happen.
I'm glad you said that. That's a great point. And
So-
the thing that what you just mentioned, Tony endeared himself so much to Vol Nation, and part of what you just said is why his support of other teams, and part of that endearment he had to Vol Nation was the first line of his statement that he released. I think it was yesterday morning or Friday, when he said, "Well, as you might, I'm sure everyone now knows, I've accepted the position to go babysit Drew Gilbert." That was great.
Well, and I told Emily the other night when this was still up in the air, I was this close to putting this out there and just expressing what I thought we were dealing with if we were to move potentially from Tony to E. And as you guys probably know, when Tony walks out to home plate for the umpire meeting, there's a certain song that plays over the PA, and it's the Top Gun anthem. And I've always thought, Tony is Maverick. And in many ways, and you can see this in a lot of different levels, but it breaks down at some level. It's fictional movie, but I feel like in many ways we're moving from Maverick to Iceman.
Yep.
And there's so many good things about Iceman that if you watch the latest movie, he ends up being a 4-star admiral and the top guy in the Navy. But I think Tennessee needed, when Tony came in, they needed Maverick. I mean, you're competing with Florida that had won 2 years before. Arkansas had been right there, a pop fly away from winning it the year before he got there. You're fighting with LSU. You got a certain team here in our city, in the middle of the state, that had kind of put their stake in the ground. You needed a rebel. You needed a guy that wasn't afraid and would tell other people not to be afraid. But make no mistake, this guy we have now, he is elite. And if you're in the baseball world, you didn't settle in what we just put at the head seat of the table for the Vols. He is legit.
So I'm curious from your all's perspective, because Hunter's a competitor. I love watching him play. I think he brings an edge to the game that team needs. Coach Elander's not really a rah-rah guy like Tony is. How does the staff reshuffle to continue to have that rah-rah guy be a little more prominent? Because I think they need it. I think it's part of their kind of body of work, who they are. So from your all's perspective, how does that staff shuffle to kind of replace that side of Tony?
I think E will be that way behind closed doors. I think he's just as fiery as V, but he's not going to do it in public. And I think he's going to give his team freedom to fill that void. That's what I think. I mean, I've never, had a huge long conversation with Elander, but I feel like the fire is there. It's just going to be displayed in a different way, more behind the scenes.
Awesome.
Well,
So I'm curious, coming out of fall, I've heard there's a high probability Hunter starting in right field. Is that kind of your all's expectation as well?
That's what they call rat poison, Rustin. We don't buy into any of that. I mean, we've been at this long enough to know that you take it a day at a time, and there are no givens. I mean, you've basically walked in. If you are on campus in Knoxville, you've basically become a member of the New York Yankees.
Yep.
I mean, these guys they're bringing in every year, and there's recruiting classes in the portal. I mean, there was a great moment this summer. Hunter's playing up in New England and started the game, and obviously I had to put his phone up, and then the draft starts. So I text him knowing that it'll be the first text he picks up when he picks his phone back up after the summer game. I said, "Hey, Hunt, just so you know, while you were playing that summer game, you have 8 new millionaire teammates just in those 3 hours, right? 8 draft picks in the first 3 rounds. So the competition up there is unbelievable, and he's going to fight. You know, we had a little thing that we saw on the internet not too long ago where I forget the origin of it, but it was fight like it's starting to rain and you're the third monkey on the ramp to Noah's Ark, and you know, just do whatever you can every day to just fight, 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 and that's his mentality. I mean, he's a football player, and he is part of a great group of guys up there, and I'm so glad that this decision was made that'll keep that group together.
Well, we're super excited for Hunter. We're super excited for all the guys. You know, some of the folks in the comments, and I'll finish with this. We're asking about, we mentioned on our show, like, would Danny take a risk on? Is it a risk? I mean, that's the unique thing about this hire is, and this is me talking. This is not the High family talking. This is a unique hire because, on one hand, it's a risk because this is E's first gig as a head guy, and it's, you know, one of the top programs in the nation. But at the same time, it was also the safe hire because it's who every player, every recruit, every former player wanted. The outpouring of support immediately after the news with Tony was announced from former players, you know, petitioning for Josh Elander to get the job was incredible. I mean, just the amount of people who commented. So I guess my last question for you, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, you know, Chris Berkey was talking on one of his podcasts the other day, and he was talking about how you had all these SEC coaches that this was their first head coaching job. You know, V's first head coaching job was Tennessee, and I think O'Sullivan, and he named a bunch of them. But the crazy thing about that, you'll say, okay, well, the program wasn't what it was. You know, V grew the program to what it is now. So, but that's what people miss is Elander was there every day.
Sure.
That V was there. So he grew it too. You know, he was the right hand. And so to me, it's not scary, even though he doesn't have any head coaching experience, and he's going to have to talk to the media and do the things that he has never wanted to do. But from a baseball standpoint, I think it's a home run for sure. And I know the boys feel that way. When the video dropped yesterday, Brent sent it to me, and I was in line at Publix and I cried. The cashier was like, "What in the world?" But you know, it was emotional because those boys, with their whole heart, wanted him to get the job. So that was neat to see as a mom.
That's awesome.
And I want to give Danny a ton of credit on this too, because I don't sense that baseball is kind of his everyday sport, right? I mean, this was a basketball player at Notre Dame, and if you look at the financials in a $234 million operation, you know, baseball's bringing in a couple million a year in ticket sales, so they're not the gorilla that football and basketball are. But I want to give him a ton of credit, I think, for listening to the boys and including them in the process, listening to the alumni, listening to guys like Todd Helton and Chris Burke that obviously love the program. And I want to compliment him on the speed in which it was done.
Yes.
I would not have expected for it to be up and done and over. And kudos to the group too for the theater and setting it all up and having it multi-camera recorded, because it captured that moment that you just can't fake. I mean, those boys erupting out of those seats, they didn't know. They just might have heard him walk up there and announce another guy that was not Josh in that moment. Can you imagine that kind of emotion sitting there just waiting for him to announce who it was going to be? So it was all very real.
I mean, Hunter alluded to that in a conversation we had with him. In his mind, he was saying, "What are we going to do if it's not Josh? How are we going to react?" Because, you can't just, not sit there and show no emotions, but at the same time, you want this other guy with your whole heart. So he, that was playing out in there. I know it was playing out in Hunter's mind, so it had to be playing out in the other guys' minds as well.
Well, I love that. And I mean, the fact that they're so bought in, they're so invested in Josh, that's going to do nothing but pay dividends in the future. And so very excited about that. And I love what Josh Elander said in that video. He said, nothing's changing. We're going to keep right on going. I love that because like you said, I love two things each of you have said. Emily, you said that, he's been there this whole time. He was part of the reason why it is what it is right now. And Brent, you made a great point. Tennessee fans don't have to worry. They have someone who is elite, and that's all anybody ever wants to hear, right?
Yeah, and the last thing I'll leave you with, Hunter told us this would have been the fall of 23 when he had just gotten to campus and been there, for a few months going through fall ball. And I will remember him vividly saying, "I think we have a chance to win it all." Obviously, they did. And so I'll say that his comment this fall so far he thinks this team may be the deepest of the three he's been on.
Wow.
So this thing is not it's not ramping down. And with these recruiting classes that they got coming in the next couple of years, it's off. Let's go.
I want to say one more thing, and you all can assume it's rat poison. But I'm a huge Don Meyer fan as well. Used to go to all of Coach Meyer's clinics. One of the things Coach Meyer always said was he would take a competitor who's a hard worker over the donor's kid or the principal's kid every day of the week. I think Tony set a precedent of there's always going to be some hard-nosed kid from Tennessee in that lineup. It started with Evan Russell, then it went to Hunter Inslee, and I firmly believe Hunter's the next one on that list. And I think they need him in that lineup every day. I think he brings an edge that those other guys, Hunter Inslee, Evan Russell, that they brought to that lineup as well. And I think they see it too. I think they're gonna recognize he's gonna be a big piece of what they do.
Well, we're just proud that he's competing and fighting and enjoying it. If you saw we were in Chattanooga, when he got to second base, he's enjoying himself and enjoying his teammates, enjoying competing. And so it's going to be fun. And there, as Brent alluded, that the team chemistry is really, really good this year. So it's going to be fun to watch them for sure.
Yeah, I lied, guys. I got one more thing to throw on the fire here. The other thing about Josh, and this is completely nonverbal, but the example that he is to these young men in the way you watch him treat Brittany and interact with those girls. Now you're into all the intangible stuff,
Absolutely.
right? So we are thrilled beyond measure that Josh is the head coach, and I don't think anything goes anything but up from here, and we're excited for February to get here.
Well, like
Awesome.
you said, kudos to Danny White, who did what he said he was going to do. He honored his word. He said he was going to listen to the players, that they were his primary concern, and he did just that. And so Danny White continues to hit him out of the park, and he's done it again. To the 558 people watching across all three platforms, we thank you. And I thank Emily and Brent on their behalf as well. Some folks were chiming in there while we were talking and agreeing with you all. Carl said that Carl loves Tennessee baseball, by the way. He doesn't miss a game. He loves it. And he said Elander, Frank Anderson, Ross, and Q, they know the formula. He said they're going to Omaha. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, tell Carl to come say hello. We've already made best friends with Earl and Judy. So we love the Browns. So tell Carl to come say hi to us in Section A or 108, I think. Maybe. I don't know. Who knows where we'll be this year.
That's what I'm talking about. Well, thank you all so much. We so appreciate your time. Two college athletes we're talking to right here. One Hall of Famer as well. That's pretty awesome. So we do appreciate you all so much. We wish nothing but the best for Hunter this year. I hope he has a fantastic season, and hopefully we get to see him in Omaha this year as well.
Blessings, guys. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.